hypothetical podcast, but like I'm having a bit of fun with it now. So who knows where it might lead.
Yeah, you should think about starting one.
Yeah, look, it's a great way to converse with someone throughout the week, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
big time.
so I obviously know you. The first time I met you was when you did a live performance demonstration and workshop in Everest Music, and ever since then I've had maximum respect for your what you do musically as a multi-discipline instrumentalist, but also your whole approach to music through your teaching, everything. I really admire your independent approach, but independent, but also working with people close to you, you know. And I think that's it's a good precedent to set, you know. So
Oh, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. That's funny. That was that one, the Ableton workshop in Everest. We
yeah,
just
yeah,
did. I worked there at the time, and teaching guitar, and I suggested to them, why don't we try and do some kind of Ableton workshop? They were
yeah.
like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. But we never did any more. I think it was like not many people came to it, but it's interesting how like you were one of the people who came, and you do these things and then actually meet someone, you form relationships out of them.
Yeah,
They're
15 years later, here we are. We've
exactly.
we've crossed paths on a couple of projects, I suppose, and
Yeah,
like gave me a couple of jams when I was first getting into my hardware bits, and like
yeah,
even there, I was just thinking there, Ableton back then, like I had no concept of it at all. I knew we'd start talking about hardware and
yeah.
software before music industry, but Ableton back then, like computing power wasn't even strong enough to really run Ableton the way anyone really wanted. But nowadays, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And then Ivan Jackman was talking about how Pro Tools back then used to come as a piece of hardware that you could run. Like that's the only way
Yeah.
the processing power you could do multi-track recording and running loads of VSTs and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
so so I'm only kind of like what 15 years later, I'm only getting the Ableton thing now. Like,
Yeah. Well, do you know why I started using Ableton? Because I was big into Max MSP, and I was building a patch. Like I spent about 3 years on it, and serious time went into it, hours and hours, like building this patch that was
yeah,
like a monstrous patch. I could like load loops in there. I could record my own loops, and it was like a loop player. It was like a
yeah, yeah, cool.
powerful, complex loop player. And then at a point, someone showed me Ableton after I was working on this thing, and I just
Ah,
realized like if I keep working on this patch for 20 more years, like eventually I'll have Ableton.
yeah, yeah.
So why should I bother?
Lot of grey hair and living in a cave somewhere,
Exactly,
writing
yeah.
code. But
But
look, we everywhere like you can take knowledge from everywhere. I'm sure doing building all that stuff is that information has come in useful other places. You know.
yeah, I'm sure it has. I'm sure it has. When I think Ableton itself, actually, I have a theory that it originally was kind of built on Macs. Things look similar, like the little number boxes and things, the way they look. And the people who created Ableton, I think they would have been really familiar with Macs, and they probably made early versions of it in it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it does translate, I think, pretty well. Ableton seemed to make sense to me, pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. You see, that's for me. It was the interface that always put me off Ableton. It's the kind of dullness of it, and a lot of it is like number based, where I just like I can figure things out where it's more like, oh, just turn that. You know what I mean? So I've gotten in an Akai controller for it, and the
Yeah,
second I had that, it's similar to Push, like, but the second I got that, it like just so much of it just made sense in my brain. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I can start using this, and obviously it's gonna be like a hybrid thing with the drum machines and stuff. But yeah, yeah. Uh, it's only been about 3 months, so I'm trying to do like an hour or two every a couple of times a week. So getting there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, cool. So we're meant to talk about music industry, and now
yeah,
Tim, I tell you last night, you think you know someone, and then they tell you the kind of because like he started 25 years ago, so like first releases being vinyl, he was able to give me loads of insight that like I wouldn't have thought of. You know what I mean? Different avenues to look at, and different first-hand experience with different types of licensing, you know. So, tell us obviously about you have quite an extensive discography, but yeah, tell us about your first releases and whether you're working independently, releasing through labels, and then how eventually you got into like music copyright. At what stage in your career did you start getting involved with Imro and the likes? You know.
Okay, yeah, I'll go right back to my first label. I was in the 90s. I was getting into techno. My mates were DJs. We were like a couple of us worked in this petrol station near where I lived in Dean's Grange, and we used to listen to techno in the little room. We were like petrol attendants. That job doesn't exist anymore. We used to
Yeah.
just fill people's car with petrol. That was our job,
Yeah.
which it's the easiest
Handy
job in the
few
world.
quid, yeah, deadly.
Like few people give you a tip, you're happy. Spent a lot of time just waiting in this little tiny little attendance room, which had a
Right.
cassette player in it. So you used to listen to techno mixes in there.
Deadly, deadly.
And me and one of the other guys who worked there, we used to talk about starting a label because we
Wow.
knew
Yeah.
people who made tunes. So we were like, we should start a label, make records. We were like, I was really, I was craving to make records, especially get my own record. That
Wow.
was
Yeah. At what
like,
age were you then?
I was like 17,
Yeah,
17,
yeah, deadly.
18, yeah. So we called the label Diatribe.
Right.
And the first release on it was my own record, which it was like 3 tracks. It was like a kind of techno. One was like an acidy track, and one was more of a longer, weird, jazzy techno track. But it never got distributed or anything. Eamon Doyle from D1, he helped me get it mastered and everything. It was actually mastered at NTS, the like legendary Detroit mastering studio.
Right. Yeah.
By
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, um, but we got 200 copies pressed and never got distributed or anything. 200 white labels. So it
Uh-huh.
was it was a little bit kind of like, okay, we sort of made a record, but we didn't really get it released. We just got
Uh-huh.
200 white
It's like
labels.
fishing almost. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, I mean, if I could have gone back and talked to myself back then, I'd just tell myself not to be in such a big hurry and just wait longer. But I was really impatient. I was just like, no, I'm making a record now. No one's going to stop me making a record.
That's a great bit of advice. So thanks for sharing that. Like, what would you say? Go back and say to yourself, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man, cool.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
it's still, to be able to say at 17, we started a record label from a petrol station. That's a bit of
yeah.
crack, like, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Another thing that happened, I worked on these 4 tracks for that record, and I worked on them like for a long time. And I was like, these are the 4 tracks. I'm going to release these. And when we sent them off to get mastered, like Eamon just told me, "Oh, it's too long. It won't fit on the record." Like no one told me how long you could fit on a
Yeah,
record
well, deadly.
before. Nowadays, if you're making records, the first thing they say, like, "This is how long you've got." You only got like, you know, 15 minutes if
Is
you
it
want to cut at
15 minutes? Yeah,
45.
yeah. I was trying to think there. Yeah.
You could fit a bit more cutting it at 33, but you want to keep it short and have it so it's like louder and better cut.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
no one had told me that, so I was like kind of devastated. I was like, "Oh, these 4 tracks, I don't want to like chop them down. I'll just do 3 new ones." And I made the 3 new ones like in a week. And I was like, there, put these on.
Well
So
able
that
though.
was my
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
impatience. But then the second one was Alan Dobbin. Do you remember Alan Dobbin?
Not ringing a bell. No. No.
No, he was a producer and a DJ who was like active for a few years in the 90s and
Right.
a really good DJ. He was one of the people who introduced me to techno. He was like one of the best DJs I've ever seen playing, a really good DJ.
I'll tell you, trust
A
your.
really, really, really
Yeah.
good DJ. It was his knowledge was just he was just one of those people who just did nothing but buy records, listen to records. Music was his complete like life.
Deadly.
And
Deadly.
it was like he really knew his techno. So he got into producing, made some tracks, and that was our second release, which we got 500 press, I believe. And that one also never really got distributed.
You're joking me. No way.
No, the distribution
Once bitten,
at,
twice shy.
at that time, it was just things were, Eamon was trying to start Dublin distribution. There was like problems were starting with distribution around then.
What
So
year was that, can I ask?
I think that would have been like early 2000s
Right.
then at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
About the year 2000, maybe
I think
2001.
you and Tim are kind of on the same timeline with releases, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting times to go from vinyl to digital to now back
Yeah.
again. So yeah, yeah, great info here. Yeah,
Tim was over here in Bristol month ago. I was hanging out with him. It was great. That was the first. I'd like talked to him a lot, over email and social media and everything, but I'd never actually met him in person until a mate of his was organizing a night here, techno night. So Tim's actually playing at it in
yeah,
June.
yeah. He made similar stories, shared stories, and we were talking about your latest release, the ZOiD 90 tracks, is it?
Yeah, 98 school tracks.
Oh, deadly!
That's like tracks from before those early Diatribe releases. So
Wow, deadly!
that was like really early stuff, and it went around on cassette tapes. Like I would record cassettes and pass them around, and people would like tape them and pass them around. It was like way before the internet was a thing. Even like
Ah,
we,
deadly, man.
I guess like we had the internet then, but it wasn't. You couldn't like share files, or it was before you could like upload or download. It would take like a minute
98.
just to download it, just to look at a still image. It was
So,
like
what
really
way did
slow.
you keep them? Did you still have the old files, or did you just have an
No,
old
no.
record? No,
Like there were no files. It was recorded from equipment straight onto cassette. Like there was no
deadly.
file. It was just like a 2-track straight to cassette, and that was the track finished then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't even keep any of the cassettes. My friend
You
Jenna
did that
kept them.
out of necessity back then, and now people are trying to emulate that thing out of like, well, it's like a homage. I like that, but it's funny how swings and roundabouts things come back. Like,
100%. When like listening back to the sound of those cassettes, I was like, when at the time, like we thought it sounded terrible. We were like, that's just really poor quality. Like it's so hissy, and now it's like, the dusty sound of old 90s equipment.
but I tell you, I could get when I listen to it. I've only listened to it in clips now, but I could feel the nostalgia off it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Vicarious nostalgia, like man.
you can. I mean, yeah, I was I was on a buzz making those tracks, and it goes into the music. So
Yeah, sweet, sweet. So, where were we then? You were aiming with distribution in Ireland. You,
yeah, it kind of all started to. I mean, it could have been just because that record had some issues on it level wise, because Alan went to the mastering studio. That one was mastered in Dublin, and I wasn't at the session, but Alan went to the session, and he was like, more bass, and
right? Yeah. Okay.
it didn't come out. A couple of the tracks were like kind of overblown, so maybe that's why I didn't get distributed. But there are two really good tracks, really good
Was
techno tracks
that
on it.
was that where you gonna release that independently, or was that with some Eamon at the time?
It was Diatribe Records. It was
Oh,
like
then
our
yeah, yeah,
label,
right.
so
Cool, cool.
that was the second release,
Yeah.
and we were planning to do more, but you know, we just realized, well, we spent a pile of money on these two and didn't even get them into shops or anything. But a kind of mad story about the first one, the white label, which did kind of filter out into some shops somehow. I'm not even sure how
Uh-huh.
really, because we didn't get it distributed, but I did hear about people seeing it in like San Francisco. And then years later, another guy in the UK contacted me through Discogs, and he was
Right.
like, I've been trying to track down who made this record, this white label, and all the only information on it was DIA 001. There was no
Wow.
other
Yeah.
information. It was just scratched in, and he tried loads of people, and he eventually found that it might be this label Diatribe. Found out I was connected, contacted me, and he was like, "Do you know who made this record?" I was like, "Yes, I made it. That's the first release." And he was like, "Amazing! I found it in a shop in the UK, and it's my favorite record. And I played it so much that it's wearing out, and I want to get it repressed."
Are you for real? Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you serious? Unbelievable!" So
How long after? Like, when was this? When did this all
this
happen?
is
Like,
like a good 8 years after we released it. 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
like, it's like a Rodriguez Sugar Man thing, or like, yeah,
not at quite the level of that, but
But
yeah, I was like
it's
chuffed.
mythology. It's like when you put something out, like that's it's
Exactly.
gas.
And the end of that story is he got a he asked me to send him the files to like press them. He wasn't going to do like a big run. He was just going to get something like 20 more copies made or something just
Right?
for him
Yeah,
and his mates. So I was like totally cool. Sent him the files. All I wanted was like send me one of the records. Like that was it.
yeah.
And he was like, no problem. I'll put one in the post to you straight away. And then I was going away or something. So I was like, don't send it to me yet. And I'll tell you when I'm back and post it to me. And then never heard from him again. He never
Wow,
sent me. He never sent me one.
one of your own records. Yeah. Oh, look.
Anyway, but yeah, so going on after that, Diatribe Records, it just basically didn't do anything then from around the year 2000. We released those two vinyls, and then fast forward to 2007, I got a grant from Music Network to make an album, and that was my first album, ZOiD versus Musicians Volume 1.
Why? Yeah, yeah.
And it was the first year they did this, the recording scheme grant. It was like a grant where the sole purpose was for people to make an album, basically. So
Cool, cool.
it was
Yeah.
really, really cool project
Right
to
place,
do.
right time. Yeah, good man. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I'd been studying jazz, and I'd done the Trinity Music and Media Technologies course as well. So I was
Right.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, now I've like my head was kind of trying to cook up some mad concoction. I was like, okay, I've done all this jazz, I've done all this music technology stuff. Now I want to combine it into this big project and
Yeah.
get some great musicians to play on it, and I could pay them for their studio time and all. So I got like was there five musicians, jazz musicians of Ireland,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'd like make a backing track, and then they'd record a part over it, like maybe a few solos, improvisation. Then
Yeah.
I'd like spend ages making the tracks, kind of
Processing and stuff.
interact with them. Yeah,
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
stuff.
cool.
And the Tommy Hafferty one, that came out pretty well.
I
And
know,
that kind
man.
of,
Yeah, I know there's one or I've definitely given that a spin a few times, and I know there's one or two. I just off the top of my head now, I wouldn't know, but I know there's one or two
yeah,
that I'm like. Now I like that about your productions. It's like it can go in any direction. You know what I mean? It's very
yeah.
it's a lot of composition in them. You know.
That album was, I think, I got like 1,000 CDs made. That's what we used to do back then. We were like, get us 1,000 CDs. But like, don't know what we thought we were doing, getting 1,000 CDs.
2007, like.
Like, do we think we were just gonna like sell 1,000 CDs? Like, I think I sold like 100 of them, maybe. And they were in Tower Records, like on the front
Wow,
of
right, yeah, yeah, cool.
on the shelf, like selling. I was like selling, tens of records out of Tower Records. It wasn't denting the
I miss
thousands
those
back home
days
though.
though, man. Like, I
Oh
oh,
yeah, big time. Yeah, we were better off, but we didn't know it at the time.
Jesus.
But yeah, even back then, I was signed up with Imro. I was like sending. Yeah, I was
That
every
was
track.
that when you got that grant? Is that when you started getting involved with Imro then, or had you
I,
been with the previous releases?
I think that was the first. I can't remember before that. I remember the process of making that CD album.
Right.
I like. I did have to do all the paperwork and stuff with MCPS, and it wasn't just like if you if you get some CDs burned somewhere, they'll just do it for you. They won't like ask for any paperwork or anything. But if you get a proper album made in a plant, like 1,000 copies,
Yeah.
and they're not duplicated, they're replicated, or the other way around. They're proper CDs. They make a glass master, and then they,
Right. Yeah.
that's a different process from like just basically burning CDRs.
And
If you
obviously,
want,
as well, you've gotten the grant, so they want to see a physical thing at the end of it. Yeah, like yeah,
yeah.
you done
So
what you
we were like kind of, yeah, the MCPS thing was like super complicated. I didn't really fully understand it, but yeah, I had to. I mean, I was the only composer on the album anyway, so I was, you know, was I going to be paying myself mechanical royalties?
right. Yeah,
You're supposed
yeah.
to pay like royalties for at that point, mechanicals. That's like if you get 1,000
That's
CDs made,
physical.
then you
Yeah,
have to pay someone who wrote a tune on that album.
right.
But yeah, I was the only composer on it, so it was sold fine.
So the musicians involved were paid for their time, and
Yeah,
that's how that works. Okay, thanks for touching on that, because yeah, I we've touched on it in class, but bringing it up in the conversation, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool.
So it was. There's a number of things that I started learning there. There was like IMRO. I was like signed up for to get my own royalties for my own. Well, what I thought I was going to get like loads of royalties. I don't know. I was like, this music will probably get into all kinds of films and TV and whatnot, but it didn't. But I started from that point. Every time I released music, I would register the tracks on IMRO,
Yeah,
and
yeah. To
also
explain that process a bit, you get your SSC number or something like that, is it? And he
yes,
said
yeah,
they kind of track it for you as well, that the radio stations have to give in their playlists and stuff. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Like,
When I first was getting radio play, like on Tape Tool, I used to. There's a thing on IMRO where you can go on, you can log every radio play just in case they miss it.
yeah.
So, like, I used to every single radio play I got to go and log it, like, to make sure they didn't miss one. But after a while, just stopped doing that. And now I wonder, like, sometimes I think some got missed.
I'm out 360 on that tune.
Well, maybe it would all add up if they
Yeah.
missed, like, say if they missed 10 plays on Tape Tool, which, like, they probably never miss those because Kean, I know he does his log sheets properly. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but you can get up to you get 10-15 euro per play on Radio na Gaeltachta.
Wow, yeah, yeah. Because Tim, I talked to you before about it, like dipping in amount over amount of plays. I don't know how true. That could be a myth that I have in my head. But Tim was saying that he reckons there's a difference between time of day you get played.
Didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. So he thinks like daytime radio is the big bucks, and then like the electronic stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning, we're getting the scraps. Like,
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because based on how many listeners are listening, probably.
yeah, everyone has different experience and different avenues. Like, because Jay Reardon touched on a thing. Straying from your own experience, but I'll just say Jay reckons when he plays a live hardware gig, he drops that into the mix, and he's getting a few quid out of that. Like, so if he
Yeah,
played live a lot of his own music in the Button Factory, he's like,
yeah,
oh, I got a few quid out of that off Imro.
yeah,
Like, yeah. So
yeah.
do you do that now as well?
Yeah, I do
Oh,
that. Yeah,
cool, cool.
whenever I play a live set, I'll put the set list into Imro, and you know, again, it is based on listeners there for your live performances. So if you're playing in some very small venue, you probably don't get much. But if you're playing in somewhere bigger, like yeah, you can
Deadly.
get some money. But that's why like if you get DJs playing your tracks at festivals like big festivals,
Mm,
that could be a few grand for a play that could come
you're
back.
joking me. Are you for
No,
really?
that's yeah, because like in a big festival, like a portion of every single ticket sold for that festival is going for to pay for the royalties. So, it's a lot
I'm
of
seeing
money at a big
euro
festival.
signs in my eyes now. Like, what?
Yeah, just the
That's
difficulty is getting the
insane.
stuff played at big festivals. But yeah, if they do, and also the other thing is they have to they have to fill the form. They have to tell that they played the track, which I know
Yeah,
a lot
okay,
of
yeah, yeah.
DJs don't do that. So
Uh,
even it's annoying that the money gets collected for paying royalties, but it's just not
And
going to
do you
any
think all
artists.
that goes up then to like the bigger artists? They're just like they have like the team behind them that they're just like, oh, we'll do that paperwork and take that, you know?
Well, they can't take it. It's
No?
it's I well, I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think the money that doesn't get paid out, I don't know what happens to it. It just starts getting collected by the collection agencies like IMRO, and they
Yeah,
don't
okay.
they don't have anybody to pay it all out to. I don't know. Yeah,
You're
that's a good
very
thing to.
optimistic, and I have a skeptical. I'm like, Beyonce's got all our money.
Well, like no, like in the streaming services, it is like that. It's you know, it all gets
That yeah, so
it all goes out to the
that's
big
where the
artists.
comparison I think, or that's a good comparison to make. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think compared to streaming services, do you think there's it's more ethical for sure with copywriting than streaming services. Um, but how do they weigh against you? I suppose two income streams are better than one. You know what I mean? But how do they compare? Do you think streaming versus?
Well, I mean, I've made a lot more from royalties coming through Imro than any streaming royalties. Because yeah, streaming royalties are
Yeah,
just for niche artists. They're just almost non-existent. Like the whole
yeah,
time
okay,
I've been doing it, like the whole time I've maybe got like 100 quid or something the whole time,
yeah, yeah,
like years and years and years. Whereas like Imro on a good it goes up and down as well. I could get like sometimes like, oh, Imro, yeah, let me look at my statement. Oh,
it,
47 cent.
yeah,
No. It's still like that sometimes. But sometimes it's a surprise and it's like 150 quid or something got like a lot, good few plays. So
yeah, yeah. Okay,
it's
okay.
it's not it's
Thanks for being honest and like realistic with everything. Like I do, like because you're a man with a lot of experience, so I appreciate you're able to steer the conversation and like give advice with all this kind of stuff. You know.
yeah. Well, like I've always been since 2007 when I started doing all this stuff. I was like, oh, you gotta get all this stuff done properly if you want to have a chance to maybe actually make some decent money. But I've never actually made decent money, but I've continued to kind of get everything set up and do everything right. And like, I still believe that,
When something pops,
yeah,
it'll all pop.
totally,
Yeah, yeah. Like
totally.
um, I kind of have that ethos with the Homegrown project as well. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
like do the hard sell, but if like one day this summer or like 10 years down the line, if one tune pops, it's gonna help the whole rest of the material. You know.
yeah.
So
I'll
yeah,
say about like the Imro thing is like if you get some sync deals, right? Everybody's trying to get sync deals. So that means a sync license is when your music is used in some video or TV or film
yeah,
or something like
yeah,
that, then you get paid a sync license to allow your music to be synced with the
yeah.
video, audio and video. So how to get sync deals is it's like everyone's trying to get them, but there's only so many available. So I've tried like a whole bunch of stuff, but there's like
Do you think
one.
RTE help Irish musicians with sync deals?
I mean, I've never gotten anything played on or like used in an Irish radio or TV. I mean,
Media like
TV,
jingles for
RT.
TV or anything? Have you ever
No,
tried? No,
I've,
no,
I've tried. Yeah, I've tried different things, but
no
it's.
bites.
I think it's like at the. You got to know music supervisors who work on films to try and get your.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's in Ireland. It's very much who you know. I do believe that it's like a.
I'll give you one because this is an interesting topic and something that I seen I thought was really like I don't know where the relationship came, but I watched a series called The Dry, based in around Sandy Cove, Glasshill, about a young one moves home and she's getting sober and like moving back to Ireland and being on the dry. Very funny show. But you know Saoirse Richardson,
I think I might. Yeah,
singer songwriter. She went to New Park now as well. And did you go
yeah,
to New Park?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Saoirse, I think she's a bit younger than yourself, but I think she might have been in my sister's class. But the whole series was all of her music.
Really.
Yeah, yeah, and now it kind of has that consistency throughout the whole series. It kind of it ties all music very nicely together through whatever the 6 or 7 episodes. But she like that must be a nice wedge for her then. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
probably is.
So like people like to slate RTE, but I think creatively they do their best to kind of support Irish arts to a degree.
I just don't really know. Like I know I've heard some Irish composers kind of being a little bit unhappy with, they see a documentary or something, an RTE made documentary, and then it's using music from other, not Irish composers, and
Right.
why
Yeah,
not
yeah,
use
okay.
use Irish? But if you're making a documentary, like
It's the content that
it's
matters. If
yeah,
the
it's your choice. Like yeah, you're the director, you're in control.
creative
You
license,
know,
yeah.
I was always just looking to try and get my music outside of Ireland and played. And, a few times I've had things that were like exciting, but nothing much came. But there was like, I was, I was trying to get, meet music supervisors and
Right, yeah, yeah.
people who have like libraries of music that they shop around and stuff, sync houses, kind of sync
Right,
licensing
okay.
houses. So I got like in touch with a guy in LA, and he Expressive Artists was the name of his sync licensing house, and he was like, well, I he told me his like library was small. He would only have like one of each type of artist from different genres, and he was like, I don't have any electronic music, so I really like your electronic music, so I want to like do sign your music to my licensing house. And I was like, cool. And he just been the music supervisor for Elysium, the film with
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Matt
Well,
Damon, like a big film.
and
So he's
you're
like,
electronic music, like, come on.
exactly, yeah. He was
What?
like, oh, if I had known about this before I did the music supervision for Elysium, I would have used your music in it. And I was
No
like, oh
way.
my God, that's
No
amazing.
way.
So I was like, sure, yeah, we did a deal which was like an exclusive deal. So the
You
my
time.
my music I couldn't send it anywhere else. He was gonna.
Right,
It was
yeah,
like
yeah.
the first album and tracks around that, ZOiD versus Musicians Volume One,
Right,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And so yeah, long story short, one track got used one time. That was it, and it was in a documentary about the porn industry. It's like a
Oh,
porn documentary,
Jesus.
and I
And did
did
you have
get.
to sign off on this, or did he just have full creative control?
um, I think he floated it by me. I was like, yeah, that's cool. It's not porn, it's a
Yeah, yeah,
documentary.
okay, yeah. Well, that's
But yeah,
wild. That is
I got a,
wild.
I got like a very small fee, like a
13 money.
couple $100. It wasn't a
That's all
big
right, though, man.
production, but that was the one thing I got from that. And
Yeah, well.
you know, and us there's another one of those LA based sync houses called Crucial, and you can go on their website crucialmusic.com, and anybody can upload up to I think 3 tracks at a time, and they'll take about 4 months, and they'll come back to you and they'll say we'll accept those or no, we won't accept them. And
Well, okay.
back
That's something that's worth a shot. Like that,
oh
the
yeah,
kind of
everyone
open application policy. Yeah. That's one I'd
every
recommend to guys in my class for sure, man. Yeah.
everyone can try that and see what happens, but they basically I sent them. I used to be doing a lot of different kinds of music. So back in it was probably around 2010 or something. I was doing like some kind of soul, working with different vocalists, and basically trying to write pop songs and soul kind of
Yeah.
R&B stuff. So the very first time I sent music to Crucial, there was a song I wrote called "Every Time We Fight," and they accepted it into the library, and I was like, "Oh, happy days, nice one."
This is
And
easy. Yeah.
I've probably sent them like at least 40 tracks since then, and they've not accepted any until just like a few months ago. They accepted 2 more tracks.
And then that
But
goes into their library then, is it? Like,
yes,
yeah,
yeah, it
cool,
goes into
cool.
their library, and they're very active, and they only accept things they think that they will get placed, right?
Yeah, cool.
So if you get something into their library, you probably will eventually get it used in something. But that first one, Every Time We Fight, after 10 years, they sent me an email. They're like, this has been used in a show, like an American comedy show.
Wow.
and I got money for that. I got like $500, which is the most I ever got for anything. And I was like so happy. I was like, I can't believe it. Like 10 years later, I was sure that, it's just
Like that
disappeared.
500 quid now, like that, you'd be like, it's like fool's gold or something
I'm
along. You're
gonna,
like,
I'm going to like
there's
buy
gold in
a
them hills. It's like,
small suit.
yeah, prospecting, isn't it? Like,
So
drive a man crazy.
it's interesting. It was like, okay, so, back then, if I had to really concentrate on doing that and then started, it's just like a quantity thing, you got one track in there, 10 years later you got 500 quid. But if you'd had a like just been, okay, they want this kind of track, so I'm going to make more of this kind of track, and then you would have got more. But that's not the way I work. I can't be doing music because someone might accept it in their
It's
library. I just
tailoring.
don't.
That is that even art anymore at that point? Then you're just making a
No.
product. I don't think. Yeah, yeah.
So I basically sent them like a load of techno tracks. They never accepted any of those. So it's just it's worth a try. You may as well, but I'm not going to be trying to kind of make something that they're going to accept in their
Yeah.
library. Just couldn't be
Like I
bothered.
do be messing around with kind of like just some ambient bits, like attempting to be Brian Eno is actually like.
Yeah, you
But
never
like,
know.
I have a lot of those jams sitting on my computer. I could start like just throwing them in. It wouldn't be worth a punt. Like,
Why not?
uh, well, that's there. Some funny stories because like one thing, Tim, his big success story with royalties, he got one of the takeover tracks went on a Fabric mix.
Oh wow.
He said that did all right, but like TV will always be around advertisement jingles and all. Like so, the the mix CD thing. So for like techno producers to get those, like mix CDs are gone.
Yeah.
They would have been a nice earner for people back in the day. Like if you got on a couple of Fabric mixes, which is within the realm of a lot of bedroom producers.
Yeah.
DJs will buy tracks. Good DJs will play tracks based on the vibe. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
where it came from. You know what I mean? And yeah. Do you think it's easier or harder nowadays with the royalties?
Well, I think
It's more what you put in. You have to put in the effort. Is it?
yeah. I never made any money ever really. Like if you're by money like sustaining your life, like having a job, like that kind of money. I've not made that from music that I've made, and I've started to like look at it as more like an analogy would be like if you were an academic in a professor, you would
Yeah.
spend a lot of time writing articles for journals, and
Mm.
you have to do that like to advance your career, but you don't get paid any money for that. You spend ages, you put loads of effort into it. You have to write, you have to get published in what this journal and that journal. And I've started looking at it like in a career, you make music and you just send it out there and you release it and you try and put stuff out on this label or that label. You just don't make money from it. It is something that's
Yeah.
like,
That's a thing, a reoccurring thing thought I've had over the course of the year. What is the metrics for success in music?
yeah.
Is it finances? Is it culture? I lean more towards I've never like business is nice, but I think that's where a lot of the messiness comes with it. But um, so oh, where was it going with that?
Where
Um,
for me, success is it will be more to do with just like being able to collaborate with people who I'd love to collaborate with, getting
Having
someone who
good
would
stories, yeah.
having been able to like ask someone, oh, will you do a remix for me? Because I'm not someone who there's some connection. You just build connections and then you have connections to people and you can work with them in different capacities and maybe play some nice gigs. That would be great. Like that's what I'm kind of working towards. It's
Yeah, yeah.
like I'm taking a long time to do it because I sometimes I look back and I go, oh, it makes sense why I've not been able to like build more momentum and like get more success because I do so many different things. It's it's a kind of
Yeah, yeah.
it's a nightmare
Busy
because people
man.
don't
Yeah.
know what they're like. What I thought you made jazz. Oh, no, I make techno. No, I don't make techno. No, I make something else.
Yeah.
I'm doing like loads of different stuff. So it's like it's a long term project to try and get momentum with it. But yeah, in another 5-10 years, I'd love to be able to like play at some festivals and get some releases on some nice labels and have my own label that is able to release other artists and get the music heard. That's really it. But financially, money wise, it's like um, it'll be like a little bit of money coming in probably from gigging and royalties and stuff like that. But I'm kind of like in education, helping people make music,
Yeah.
teaching that kind of thing is like how to make a living for me. And I do enjoy that. And that's my,
That's like, and that to me is success in if you choose music as your vocation. That to me is success.
yeah,
Um, for sure. And that I want. I think you should really be playing more gigs. Like you definitely um think that's something easily to aspire to. Any festival promoter would be uh yeah, highly recommend booking you, man. I think you should be playing more gigs. I would like to see that more. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Are you
working on it.
finding you're having a bit of crack over in Bristol anyway? I know that you seem to be going to more gigs and like obviously
Yeah,
it's just more vibrant over there. Yeah.
I really enjoy being in Bristol. The scene's great. There's so many gigs on, and the type of gigs they are. Like I went to this one gig. It was called Holy Tongue in Shackleton. You know Shackleton, the producer. He was like kind of part of a band that was. It was basically it was like a four-piece with drums and bass and you know big electronics
Yeah,
basically,
cool. Yeah.
and they were playing like this kind of dubby improvised music.
Oh, nice.
But
Right.
it was like a sold out gig on a Thursday night, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah. See, like,
I was like there was at least 300 people there, and it was very it wasn't it was very out there music. It was like properly like improvised, dubbed out, like mad
avant-garde.
spacey,
Yeah,
pretty out there
yeah.
stuff. And I was like going, wow, sold out and 300 people here. And, that wouldn't happen in Dublin. That would be like maybe there's 30 people in a room kind of checking
Yeah,
out this
true
weird
that.
music
True
in
that.
Dublin. And that was like kind of a big eye opener because it's like, wow, I always thought Dublin was like a pretty open scene and everything. But in terms of audience, it's not really like there's not a huge audience for music that's really out there, which means Dublin's pretty conservative, actually.
Yeah. Well, Bristol, I've never been, but from what I know, like even before Brexit, I was considering making a move to the UK, and the only place I'd go would be Bristol, just kind of
Yeah,
for that kind of creative hub. You know what I mean? So yeah, no
yeah.
better man for it. That's great to hear that you're having a bit of crack. And have you been talking with like agents or anything over there, or no?
No,
Are you
no.
sending
Like,
out like press packs or anything to any, like?
yeah, I do send out stuff a bit. I haven't been working hard on trying to get gigs. I did like, I released my album last November. This one, the ZOiD versus
Music.
Musicians Volume Two.
Yeah, yeah,
So I was like, okay, I got 100 pressed of them. I was like, my two goals out of doing this, I want to sell it out and get a gig. That's two goals I have for
yeah.
doing that. And still kind of working on those. I'm like, got about 15 left out of the 100. I'm going to London this weekend. I'm going to bring them to record shops. I'm still kind of working on that and getting a gig out of it.
Myself and Tim touched on that. It's not so much. It's making sure the physical copies go into the right hands rather
Yeah,
than rushing them out to like, oh, they gotta go. Like, there's, you know,
definitely. I got like
there's
a
more value
distribution.
in it now, more in a vinyl more than ever. It shows that you've gone to a huge amount of effort to
Yeah,
independently put out your art. You're standing by it that strongly. So yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So it was cool that like Rub a Dub distributed it. They got it into
cool.
a few shops, including one in St. Petersburg, Russia, that I like kind of met
Soviet
the guy.
electronic jazz, they'll love it over there. I tell
Well,
you.
I never knew they have a great scene, like experimental stuff, jazz, electronic
Yeah.
stuff, loads of stuff over there. I never knew. And like, I got into this conversation with the guy who runs a record shop there, and he ordered a couple of copies of the record, and he was telling me like it's the equivalent of like 50 quid there because of the exchange rate. So,
Wow,
it's
right.
really expensive to buy an imported
Important.
record. And like, he sent me a list of Russian labels, like it was a long list, like 30 labels. And I was like going through and I was like, oh my God, I never knew this, like
Yeah.
the level of the music there is incredible.
Yeah, well,
So
that's it. Only like a select few rise to the top, and that's it. That's why we touched on it earlier. What is the measurements for success? And I think community, and you touch collaboration, and
yeah,
entering the dialogue. The cultural dialogue. I think is people go, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And you're like, "I don't know. It's cause I can." Like it's yeah,
exactly. We
uh,
just do whatever we can do to keep living this life where we get to make music. And that's it. I can't do anything else.
have
Like,
fun with our friends, and
yes, I've
yeah.
never really had any kind of real job, if you like. I've never, worked in an office or
Other than the garage,
no, it's
the
just
petrol
been
station.
just make, yeah, that was it. That was
Yeah.
the only job I had, and I did that for like a year.
Bear with me, Daniel. I'm just going to run for a quick toilet break. 2 seconds,
Okay,
man.
sure.
Here we go. Boom, boom.
Cool.
Yeah, so, man. So, yeah, what did I finish up with? Is there any Irish artists you're listening to at the moment, or?
Um, I'm not really listening to. Oh well, I'm listening to a good few demos of stuff people are sending me for ZOiD tracks. That's taken a lot of listening time. So
Cool.
some couple of things are like I'm really excited about. Yeah, I'm listening to it over and over again. I'm like, oh, I can't believe this is unreleased, and I'm getting to release it. So there's like two artists that have never released before that are going to be. ZOiD tracks will be releasing their debut releases over the next few months.
Vinyl?
Not doing vinyl yet. No, this year we'll
Yeah,
just do digital,
that's
but
understandable. Why not a
possibly
risk?
next year. I mean, yeah, I'll never rule it out completely, but yeah, financially we want to try and make it last, long time. And if you could do a vinyl and then do another one and then be like, oh, I spent too much money. I'm not going to do anymore. You
Yeah,
don't do that.
yeah. Look, um, just push for it. The radio plays.
Yeah.
That's the job. What else? So yeah, that segues into the next thing. That's what are your own plans? So two releases with ZOiD tracks. Any of your own bits and bobs? I know you've got the ZOiD 98, is it?
Yes, School Tracks 98, part
Yeah.
one and part two. So part two came out, what day is it? Today? Okay, no, yesterday. Yeah, so I'm gonna be releasing. I've got another album that I'm working on, and it's gonna have some like pretty high profile remixes, which is cool. And that is gonna come out on vinyl this
Yeah.
year. So that will be a very limited run. I think maybe 20 copies of vinyl.
Oh, nice. That's a
Yeah,
collector's item, so that's
yeah,
less industry, and that's just one for hanging on the wall.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, there's like a couple of places that do dub plate cutting, basically really limited runs. And there's one in
Yes.
Bristol. Yeah, there's
Sweet,
one
man.
here in Bristol.
And
So
with the music school. you said that's kind of jump in, jump out kind of basis now. People can get in the mix, or you're that regular with it. Like you have two different courses, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my courses are online and people can just do them whenever they want. So one is a music theory course that's like a new one that the modules will come out like once a month. So the first module is coming out tomorrow actually for that one. But it doesn't matter, if you
People can
start like
start the process
you can
when, yeah,
start whenever, yeah. If you start after 3 months, you get the first three modules, and then the next this will be
yeah, dead.
seven in total. But I'm pretty excited about that one because I've been thinking about this stuff, for like 30 years basically. Like music theory, it's something that I naturally just felt interested in when I
Mm.
started playing guitar when I was 12. I was like, how does it work with the chords, with the notes? So just like thinking that way. And
Yeah.
there's a way that it's taught traditionally, and I don't like that way. It's like boring, and I've kind of made a different way of explaining it. Like all the things about how notes work, how chords work together, all the keys, all that stuff. The way I'm teaching it on my course is just like it's geared towards electronic music, but it's still goes quite in depth about stuff that usually you only learn about in jazz, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was thinking already because that's when I think of your stuff, and like from the very first time I met you in Everest Music, it was like really complex theory and really well produced, man. Like, and like as an electronic music producer, I think they're the two biggest hurdles you're looking at. Like, um,
Well, thanks. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they're
what
the
I try to do.
fundamentals. Like, there's all types of engineer. You're a producer's producer for sure. Like,
Cool, I'll take
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I highly recommend the music courses. I don't. Is anyone ever going to see this podcast? Who knows? But
Nah,
I am gonna 100% bring it up with a couple of the lads in the course that are looking for, a kind of more just a bit more of a challenging course for over
yeah,
the summer months. So
cool.
yeah,
Well, there's that one, and the other one is the Foundations of Electronic Music Making, which is again a 7 modules, and it's just about production, but it's kind of my take on production as well.
yeah,
So that one's a finished course. So that one is like if you get it, you immediately get access to all the 7 modules. You could go through that one quicker than 7 months. If
yeah.
it would be like part-time 7 months, or else you could like hammer through it in like 7 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, everyone at their own pace, like, yeah. So I like
Yeah,
accelerated learning, like, and I'm kind of paying the price with me college projects because here I am. This is due on Monday, just gone, and I'm doing it today. So, but that's just how I like to work, you know what I mean? Especially with creative stuff where there's a deadline, but it's not a real deadline. Come on,
yeah.
like, you know.
Now I like to. Deadlines are good for me.
Mm.
I've got this like deadline tomorrow. Might have to put module one up, so I'll be finishing it like first thing in the morning.
15 minutes before it's going live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it's a good way to work though. I enjoy it, but it keeps you on your toes. I
Okay,
think,
yeah,
like, and you're kind of learning in that kind of state of mind as well. Like, I think that heightened that little bit of panic, you just kind of learn better.
yeah,
You're not thinking as much. You're just doing. Oh,
yeah. Have you heard that U stress?
no,
Stress with U in front of us. U stress is like kind of a positive stress that like if you don't have any, then you just like don't really do anything. But if you're too stressed out, then it's not good. It's not good for you. But if you just have the right amount of it, then it's eustress and it's good.
okay. Yeah, look, man, with the podcast thing, like, I have another year next year in college, lots of projects to be doing. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and like, we're just talking about industry here and copyright, and we could get into all different avenues, So, who
Thank
knows
you.
what will come of it? And
Uh,
I'm getting back on track with Ableton and the hardware and all now. So, yeah,
yeah, I mean, you should do it. Like you probably know loads of people who would go on and like it's good, easy chatting, and you could do like big long 3 hour episodes and
yeah, we figure it out, man. Bit of crack, and all the best. I really hope you like with the material coming out, and like you seem to have a good plan for this year ahead. Like, I think, like, if you met the
yeah,
right agent in the right space, you know what I mean. You should be doing festival circuits. You know what I mean? There's no reason why you can't be playing at Glastonbury. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. I'm
I
gonna do it.
really think so, Daniel. Man. Like,
If
serious.
if anyone's in Sligo, I'm playing two gigs in Sligo in June. Doing a 6th of June at Lily's, doing a jazz quartet in Sligo Town, and then 7th of June I'm playing in a kind of rave in like a couple miles north of Sligo Town, which is like a kind of
Cool.
AmeriCord is playing and
Oh
myself playing
well,
live.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Genie, I could hop on a train. This is the first year I haven't been working as a chef in 10 years,
Oh,
so
right.
I am able
Good.
to now enjoy a bit more freedom for the summer. So, like jumping on a train now is actually within reality for me at the moment. So you might see me
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Come down.
yeah, sweet man. And
Brilliant.
yeah, well, I suppose we'll wrap it up there. I tell you, my lecturer. I think these are only meant to be 15 minutes long. I'm sending them 2 hours worth of footage. Gets them
Yeah.
back for the whole year, though.
I didn't think we would even keep to half an hour. There's too much to talk about.
It's brilliant. I might do an edit. I'll do a couple of edits maybe and throw them up on
Yeah.
Instagram or something. Definitely, we'll
You
put
can
some.
send me a video and I'll put it up on my YouTube channel if you
Yeah,
want.
if you fancy it, yeah. I just yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. But yeah, I'll put it into my project, and I'm gonna do like a little breakdown, takeaway points, and all that crack. I'll send you a couple of my other projects as well. Get your 2 cents and stuff, and
Yeah,
yeah,
send them
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sound and
All right.
Homegrown 11. Yeah, I have someone very nice for like involved in that, and as well. Thanks a million. You've supported the Homegrown project since day one. Always contributed. Always pushed it. Always pushed me. So yeah, really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I've learned a lot from you. I've look to always in Dunleary. There was instant crack in
Yeah.
conversation. So appreciate that one.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss about Dunleary, is just randomly bumping into someone every now and then. Oh, how's it
Yeah,
going, Dan?
yeah. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you're busy. You're like, oh no. But yeah, I hope to see you over the summer and all the best, man. Honestly, you deserve a lot to come your way with the music for sure. You're one of the hardest working music men I know. Like you're doing it all, man.
Yeah, I'm hammering away. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for saying that.
Yeah, sound man, and yeah, sure we'll shoot the breeze on Instagram. I'm sure as we do.
Yeah.
Peace out. Thanks a
See you
million.
then.
I'll send you
Bye
this
bye.
soon enough as well. Sound man.
Send it on. Send it on.